So first thing is that probably Standard Chartered Bank little bit unique that so somebody lady came as a in a beauty contest and become a Miss Malaysia. The demand is very high. So what we did in a Standard Chartered Bank probably that this shared CNC, which is Command and Control Center, we created a little bit of a hype in it. So a lot of people are interested to see it. And that is created lot of these compliance, lot of these regulators want to see also that what is the best practice. So if you go to that hall, all across you can see more than 200 screens and how the people are doing work they are interested in. So that is the one side of it, that little bit we are unique in a sense that we have created a hype and a lot of people would like to see in Malaysia especially that where we are. In fact, very interesting that the Singapore regulators, FI regulator, is also visiting us in Malaysia to see this center. Now, the second issue, which is, it is true actually, the number of regulatory bodies are coming and to the various companies and trying to know that where we are. And why it is? Because everybody has to see the risk. So if Bank Negara is a body and something goes wrong in any bank, it is their responsibility also that what they have done in this regard, not only the bank. So what they did, in fact, very recently, that they created a working committee for the banks, which is working on. They have came up with a guideline for the banks as well. And third, they did the assessment of the banks. So they sent a questionnaire to all the banks, and it was a huge questionnaire, like around 80, 90 questions, and every bank has to give in detail. Now, they are doing their job. On the other side, actually, as a lot of work is increasing at a company's level to really respond all this. So it's true that a lot of risk people are coming. Our own risk people, like internal audit teams are reviewing it. Recently, Bank Negara has implemented the SWIFT-based Renta system. All high-value transaction between the banks and the Bank Negara, they have changed to the SWIFT. So first thing what they did they asked every bank's audit team to audit and see whether security is sufficient in this regard or not.
Fair, but sorry to interject you. Here's the core question. If the CISO is going to spend the entire year responding to regulators, we're talking of governance, risk and compliance, right? So when are they going to do the actual job? Unless you've got unlimited budget, because they've got a real job. You're talking of threats that are coming from left, right, center. You're talking about building a learning organization. You're talking about responding to the board. And then you have, 180 days. As a CIO.
So it depends on that how you have the organization. So Murari has spoken here. He is one of the top tier of CISOs. We have, as I said, 750 people. But in a top tier in Malaysia, we have similar like Murari, we have around 30 people. So of course, there are a number of people who are available to respond to the various agencies. So it's not only the CISO. CISO is mainly one we have which is not sitting here. She is based in London, the real CISO. Same the question.
The real CISO.
The real CISO. So the same question goes to the Dr. Amiruddin. That on one side he is going to the so many bodies and so many MOU sign off, but another side, he is doing a lot of job for the country as well. So I think nowadays it's not CISO job only that they should be internally looked into, but they have to see the externally. My view is that anyway CISO has to see externally, because if he is not aware about the environment, he cannot protect their own organization. But challenge what you said is right.
Policy matter is that you should not prescribe and should be defined as in principle what is this policy is about. And the policy is only effective if it can be practiced and governed. So as a regulator or frontline regulator per se, we have our obligation basically to see market fair and orderly. Participants are protected. We are moving from prescriptive to principle-based policy. And what does that mean is that you set guidelines for the market, basically to safeguard the market themselves. So, and it's very difficult to say one shoe fit all in a particular prescriptive mechanics. You can't do that. You will have to say in principle what you need to do, and then they take it on from their own set things, what they need to do to protect their business. So from that perspective, I would answer that there's no prescriptive, and you don't want policies over policies, and it becomes overburdening because it's so prescriptive. So in principle, we are not trying to add more policies, but to make sure that it works, and it works for basically our member at large. Everybody can apply to it and put the appropriate measure.
As you know, nuclear industry is a very regulated industries. In terms of security, nuclear security, and also cybersecurity. So part of nuclear security, the International Atomic Agency, so IAEA, they have a guidelines. They produce numerous documents, and one that I can remember is they call it computer security in nuclear facilities, something like that, that we have to adhere to. And also for us being a full-fledged government department, we are also subjected, of course, to directive from MAMPU and so on, and from MOSTI, and cybersecurity also have something in that. But to the question that how do we balance between the policy and the implementation, I think there have to be a balance. When the whole purpose of IT security is to protect information and data from unauthorized access, right? I tend to agree with the panel that our previous panel saying that policy is it's not enough, but we have to balance between the totally the secure and convenience. When you have a totally secure situation, then it's very inconvenient for you. You have to have password, you have to have various level of entry. So the balance between the security and the convenience is also important. It's important in the sense that so we have to really assess the threat. Threat assessment is very important. And also the classification of information. Not all information are really secure, even though for us nuclear security, nuclear is a very sensitive issue, and we have a lot of sensitive information, but not all are that sensitive and that need to be secured. But if you are going to secure everything, then it's going to be a huge task, and it's a huge cost. So we have to look at the real threat. Are we really that threat level is that high that we need to secure everything? So that is, I think that's my opinion. We have to strike the balance. We have to find the right balance to secure as needed.
Actually, if we look at cybersecurity, a lot of people view it as a technical issue. As such, this is meant to be for IT people, the IT analysts, etc. I don't believe in that. To us, it should be everyone's responsibility, and it should be even more at the highest level, which is the management, and even at the board level. So as such, we have to create an example. As a cybersecurity specialist agency, we have to set example. And as such, for example, we enroll into this CISO program organized by E-Council to at least to provide that training so that we have enough knowledge and competency so that we can help to guide others also to do it. Because we believe that cybersecurity is not, like I said, not just technical. In fact, we have to cover the whole ecosystem. People, policy and process, and technology. Technology is just one component which is normally handled by the IT people. But people is actually the weakest link in cybersecurity. Started from even at the management level. Has to show, lead by example. And that's why we push our management, and I have to also be part of it, as an example, and to show commitment that this is a serious matter. In some of the surveys that, in Malaysia, we have what we call National Cybersecurity Policy. And under National Cybersecurity Policy, we have identified 10 sectors as a critical national information infrastructure. And we have done some engagement with one of that vertical sectors. And we did some survey with regards to how they manage the risk and compliance in their respective sectors. And a lot of feedbacks that we receive. I can summarize it such that they say, what are their challenges, what are the issues when it comes to risk and compliance after they have been given some awareness. They see the importance, but they say the issue is lack of budget, lack of management commitment, lack of resources, lack of awareness, you name it. If you ask and you list those things, these are all based on commitment from the top level. If you don't have budget, because the management at that time don't see it as important maybe, and the same thing in terms of commitment, but the management feel cybersecurity is just IT issues, technical issues. I like the example by Dr. Arif just now. He highlighted when it comes to implementation of security, first the infrastructure, then the system, blah, 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 and maybe the last one is cybersecurity. So to them, if we are to invest in cybersecurity, it is something that afterthought thing. And not only that, if we say that investment is huge, you say, oh, it's a cost, we don't want that. All the investment should be focusing on maybe infrastructure development rather than security, instead of putting cybersecurity as a priority. The mindset is wrong. That needs to be corrected. And these are issues. And issues of what? It's not technical issues, it's people issues, starting from the highest level. So for that reason, we feel that needs to be changed. It's not easy, but it has to be done. And it has to be started at the highest level. And some more with cybersecurity as the agency responsible to help protect, secure the cyberspace. We have to lead by example. And that's why we believe in the partnership, in building the necessary capabilities at the highest level. And as such, we enroll, for example, in the CISO program of the EC Council.
There is a balance between that if we are giving this digital banking to the clients and customers, it has to be very easy at a client level. Otherwise, the penetration will not come. So that is the rule of thumb. If client will not be happy to do the transaction on the internet or mobile banking, whatever the bank should do, it will not fly. So that is very, very important that for every bank that we have to do. But looking into the security, always it is for the interest of the customer. That's the education we have to give it to the client and customers, that what is important for them. So it is like, if you can see that old days, what people was not been doing it, now people are ready to do it. Like, it was very difficult for me to keep the 10 different passwords remember, but now I can do that. So it's a behavior of the human being as well that I have seen, that the people are coming with the new technology and they are using it. Surprise to me is that I thought that most of this iBanking and mobile banking is used by the young generation. Actually, it is not. A lot of people who are aged users, they are also using the iBanking and mobile banking as well. It is true what you said is that now the whole focus of the banking industry is towards that how we can reduce the pain at a customer level. And I was just reading Singaporean, one of the bank, he has created without giving access to the mobile without dongle, Like for corporate transactions, we used to give a dongle to the clients, and they have came up with a mechanism without it. Or you can see the example of a Standard Chartered Bank that we have given a card which basically have numbers on a screen. So when you touch a button, this numbers comes and you can
The
put
token,
it-
you mean?
Token. So the banks are continuously making efforts how they can be able to make it very easy way for customers. But on other side, the challenge what Morari said, I am facing as well, that the regulators are pushing that we should be having some mechanism. What I said is here, that it is a Bank Nagara, that we have to put this screen, photo and all this we have to do it. Now, this is coming from the regulators. So, regulators has gone to the very high level policy to the very descriptive based policies as well, directions as well. And the banks has to follow it. But moving forward, my view is that the people will be used to. And that is the behavior probably the people comes with, that how they can be able to use the difficult device or difficult mechanism. But the statistics I showed you, it is both from the customer and the clients. The number of companies has changed their mechanism to go digital way, and the number of transactions, the payment has been increased, almost double figure in 1 year time. I have the numbers in another slide, but that is, the number has gone up in Malaysia on an online payment. So who is doing it? The customers. So my view is that this behavior, probably the people are accepting it slowly.
Don't just focus on security. Security comes with a purpose to service the business and what the board is interested in. So I think if you just focus on security alone without showing them the big picture, what is the outcome you want to achieve, then it's a hard sell. Normally a board can relate to what their business is about and what they want to achieve as the outcome of the business itself. So security should not be isolated by itself. It should come in total service and should be part of your total service, what you are trying to get to. Obviously, there is some acute issue that you want to stress a security, let's say, sell to the board. Example, like, let's say cybersecurity as a thing, and you need to put in some DDoS prevention, but you say what service you are trying to protect, why this is important to protect, and what are we trying to safeguard, reputation or image of the company that you are trying to safeguard. So if we put in a context from a board member who wants to know why are you proposing such a thing and what is it affects the business or what it helps to strengthen your image, that will sell better. So you have to step the other side of the shoe of the board member or management. What is the value that why you are saying this is required? I think it's the lingo that you speak on, the way you present this out to whoever needs, you want to pass the message through. But like I say, you have to step into the guy who received the message, in his shoe, what is that mean? And sometimes you need to practice, get a good somebody outside of your realm to talk to, and whether the person understand what you're trying to say and get the message through in terms of the importance of what you're trying to do. And I think a lot of it is just basic communication and how, a good story. And I
See,
think
let me give you my experience, because I recently did a kind of 1 hour presentation to the board. And
Can you
when
share
they,
intimate details with us? All the top secret
a
stuff?
little bit in a sense, because initially when I was putting a normal paper to the board, the request came from the board that I have to put a presentation for cybersecurity, and I requested a full 1 hour from them, and they given. In the next meeting, they said, yes, 1 hour, we'll give it to you. So when see, one of the difference or I can suggest all of you people, that when you are doing a presentation to the board, you should come into their booth. You can't do the presentation or you can't come into your own point of view. You are a techie guy, you are a CISO. If you are coming with the language which they don't understand, it is difficult. So best thing is that you have to start with the language which they understand. So when I started clear desk policy, data protection. So they have to understand that what is the basics. And then I have gone step by step to the cybersecurity. Because if you go on a cybersecurity in a first step, these people don't understand cybersecurity very well. These are the people are not very understand this. So second item is how we can email access. Like in our organization, not all the people are having external email access. Even in a scope, nobody is having external access. In a scope, nobody can have a mobile on his desk. He has to leave behind in his other place his mobile. So mobile is not anybody can take on a table now. So these are all very measures to protect your data. Cybersecurity is a one-off piece, but protecting the data is a series of it. So when you start talking their language, then they can understand. And then you should create a worry. See how you can get the money out from the board. The more important is you can make them worry. You can showcase that this can happen. And if you tell them that this can happen and this is you have to understand it, these people are ready to invest into it.
In the context of us in cybersecurity, especially our role, because our role is not just purely looking into cybersecurity as an entity. We have to look into at the national level. So as such, we are lucky that at the national level, for example, we have what we call our national cybersecurity policy. National cybersecurity policy, which was mooted in 2005-06, which has adopted by the government. It has provided the guidance and reference for how we work together and how do we manage the issues of risk and compliance at the national level. And in fact, it has become a model to some countries, because even when I go to some of because I did some talks to other countries, not just in Malaysia, but also some outside countries, even in the developed countries, they have problems. Yeah? In fact, I want to share the importance of the governance. I was in a conference in Russia, just came back recently. They have problems because the regulatory bodies, which is the Central Bank of Russia, is committed in terms of to manage the issue of cybersecurity. They can manage within their own, but sometimes they have problems in getting support from other sectors. For example, if there is any cybersecurity risk, threat or attacks happening, who should be responsible and those kind of things. Among them, they have issues at the national level. So as such, they have problems. But when they have managed to convince at the highest level, especially at the central bank, I find very interesting when the Central Bank of Russia mentioned, the governor herself mentioned, to summarize, what are the most important, I would say, vulnerabilities or concern for her in the next coming years. For one word, so she summarized it as cybercrime. So it has reached to that level, and in that conference, she managed bringing thousands of banks around Russia to focus and highlight the issue of cybersecurity in their own respective institution. And as such, it's much easier than to introduce whatever policies, directive, guideline, or whatever. That is much easier to comply. At the same time, they see it as a critical risk. And that's why the number one person itself mentioned the importance of cyber as one of the highest risks for the banking sector. So once we have the commitment, it's much easier actually to really roll these things out. We can have, for example, in some places, we can have good policy measures or maybe regulation or compliance system to be implemented. But when there is no commitment and there's no proper governance, implementation tends to be maybe good on paper, but not in reality.
I think the perception of members and regulators, I think regulators are changing. I would say it's no longer policemen and trying to govern and issue fines if you so-called don't comply. I think regulators today, not just coming as a regulator but also educator, to make sure that you understand what is needed to be done and to help the members to move along, to increase their maturity level, their standards, and what they need to do to arrive at that level. I think that is, I think a few people would disagree, would agree with me that regulator don't teach me, but will slap me if I fail to do something. But again, I think regulator today is working together with the participant to bring their standards up. At the end is to safeguard the industry where they regulate it. Okay. Cross-border is more of a challenge. Different jurisdiction, country to country maturity level are different. The practices are different. So to harmonize that, more effort at the regulatory level to harmonize would, I do not know, sometimes it takes decades to arrive at any one thing. And if you have the same alignment in thoughts and in same level, then you find things moving faster together. But there's no unison in totality in the world. It's such a dynamic world. But effort is put into to make things easier, so that again, from cybersecurity, following ISMS, ISO 27001, we don't need to reinvent the wheel of the standards. Standards has been there. Question is for us to understand and how to adopt. Like I said earlier, we are not going prescriptive. We are going back to the principle base of a policy and how can be widely applied. So that is the objectives of the regulators.